WHP TV with Williamsport translator.
The Tour de France is careening toward its most dangerous and decisive moment. For America's Andy Hampsten, this is the chance to seize control of a race that has already humbled some of the world's greatest athletes. Jose Luis Ramirez also knows his way around France. After 7 straight victories here, the former lightweight champion meets Terrence Ali, who is also head over heels in pursuit of the vacant WBC title that will be awarded today on CBS Sports Sunday. Picturesque Saint-Tropez, the jewel of the French Riviera, and the home of some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And some of the most beautiful bodies in the world as well. At the heart of Saint-Tropez is the waterfront. Once an important naval stronghold, now it plays host to all means of Mediterranean mariners. And today, this scenic seaside resort is our port of call here on CBS Sports Sunday. Bonjour and bienvenue à Saint-Tropez. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Ryan here in Saint-Tropez, and welcome to another in our series of CBS Sports Sunday telecasts from France, and the second of our live championship bouts dedicated to the memory of the late, great French middleweight Marcel Cerdan. Well, last night there was a fight back home in the United States, the WBA Junior Middleweight Championship. The champion, Mike McCallum, defending his crown against Donald Curry. Now, Curry was favored to win this fight. However, the champion looked great. He stopped Curry in 5 rounds. Well, today we've got a live championship bout of our own. The vacant WBC lightweight title is at stake. Jose Luis Ramirez, ranked number 1, against Terrence Ali from New York City, ranked number 2. And this crown vacated by Hector Camacho, who has moved up in weight. Well, we've come here from last week's beautiful backdrop of the Bordeaux wine country, and we've come to the sparkle of Saint-Tropez as the sun is setting here on the Mediterranean, the Gulf of Saint-Tropez to be exact, and many international celebrities are among the fight fans here at ringside, enjoying champagne and all of the goodies that come along when you're somebody special in Saint-Tropez. Later on, we'll take a special look at what makes Saint-Tropez such a popular landing strip for the international jet set. Now, earlier today, another very important championship took place over here in Europe. It was of the golf variety at Muirfield, the British Open. It was won by Nick Faldo, and he becomes the first English golfer to win it since 1969 when Tony Jacklin did so. Well, in cycling, today was the start of the home stretch, so to speak, of the 2,500-mile Tour de France. And our coverage, of course, continues here on CBS Sports Sunday. The racers assembled near Avignon, about 200 miles from our location here, and they began a time trial up the perilous Mont Ventoux. I had a chance to be there this morning with John Dockery. It was quite an experience waiting at the top for the first cyclist. Some of the fans of French cycliste Charlie Motet saying he's going to win the Tour de France. We are 6,000 feet up on Mont Ventoux. They are going to have a time trial climbing up this mountain today, and John Dockery, watching them do this earlier in the week down at Luz Ardidon, was just absolutely unbelievable to me to see them make that climb and be hardly breathing heavily when they got to the top.
Tim, the thing that amazes me most as an athlete about this event is that the mental and physical toughness that's required to ride 2,500 miles. Think about that, 2,500 miles in 26 days across France. That's getting up day in and day out after struggling over mountaintops like this and being able to do it. It is just incredible to watch.
The spectacle is really awesome. To see the number of spectators lining the roads here, you can relate to a Super Bowl, perhaps 80, 100,000 people all packed in on one Sunday afternoon. This runs for a month and thousands more.
It's like a Super Bowl almost every day. There are 55 million people in France. About half of those folks will come out on the road to catch a glimpse, maybe 15 seconds of a rider flying by, and they come out, hours in advance, some of them camping overnight. So it is really a traveling road show and a spectacle like none I've ever seen before.
They're talking about somewhere between 100 and 200,000 people lining the route here today. Well, from here, of course, they'll head into the Alps.
The Alps will really tell. We have 4 stages in the Alps before getting to the Champs-Élysées and the finish in Paris. And that's the place where the men worthy of wearing the yellow jersey will come forward.
Well, that's quite a spectacular view, is it not? And what a stage that was today up Mont Ventoux. It's a memorable experience for both me and for John Dockery to be there and see some of that. Today's stage was expected to be a turning point in this year's wide open tour. John Dockery will be joined by Phil Liggett. They'll give you a full look at the excitement and intrigue of this third week of the Tour de France when Sports Sunday continues from France here on CBS.
CBS Sports Sunday is sponsored by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. Micotin. It cures athlete's foot. Step up to the mic. And by Kemper and the independent insurance agents who represent us. Once you compare Kemper, you'll ride with us.
Hampsten to grab the Tour de France by the throat. It is time for America's hope to take charge of a race searching for a terminator. Hampsten's first lieutenant, Raul Alcala, is now a threat to win himself. And Dag Otto Lorentzen has exploded onto the scene as 7-Eleven has taken the continent by storm. Irishman Stephen Roche is still the race favorite, but is the pressure eating away at his nerves? The yellow jersey, the rider with the best overall time, belongs to Charlie Motet of System U. But two-time Tour champion Laurent Fignon still leads the Tour's most dominant team. In the Pyrenees, the Tour de France turns from a bicycle race into a spectacle. A drama being played out before hundreds of thousands of spectators. Out of the shadows of these mountains, the upstart Colombians, led by Luis Herrera, have emerged as real contenders with the ability to dominate this race. The Pyrenees is the place to take the offensive.
I think people will be attacking. I think the Colombians will be pushing it. And I hope it explodes. But I hope I'm on the right exploding in.
We at CBS Sports are proud to bring you the greatest bicycle race on earth. This is the Tour de France. Welcome to the stark beauty of Provence here in southern France, where today thousands are gathering for the most important race so far in this year's tour. Hello, everybody. I'm John Dockery. And later this afternoon, right here on Mont Ventoux, the 164 survivors in this year's tour will face the test they dread the most. An individual time trial over 20 miles up this mountain, all alone against the clock. And later today, we're going to bring you same-day coverage of this grueling race, almost certain to produce those riders worthy of wearing the yellow jersey 1 week from today in Paris. This This year's Tour de France started in Berlin, the most distant start ever for a tour. After 2 days of racing through the streets of the divided city and another 2 days in Germany, the tour came home, crossing the border into France at Strasbourg. From Strasbourg, the riders headed west across Champagne country, where scorching heat was a common enemy. But for Tour favorite Stephen Roche, his problem was not just the heat. It was also his team working hard in sizzling temperatures to protect the yellow jersey worn by Eric Mackler. After all, weren't they supposed to be working for Roche? The big surprise of the early going was Mexican cyclist Raul Alcala. Riding for the American team, he would be a valuable ally and Andy Hampsten fit for the yellow jersey. The tour then headed south, where Andy Hampsten would face his first real test, an individual time trial. It was a disappointment, but still Hampsten remained in contention. But he was no match for Irishman Stephen Roche, who solidified his status as the man to beat in this year's tour. 7-Eleven's Delgado Lawrenson was a surprise, placing much higher than expected, giving the American team another weapon in their growing arsenal. But when it was over, System U's Charlie Mote, with a second-place finish in the time trial, wore the yellow jersey because he had the best overall time thus far. Then it's south into wine country, where System U maintained control of the pack. Team leader Laurent Fignon had taken on a new role, the protector's role, on a team so dominant that it could put even a domestique like Marshall Guyant in the yellow jersey, if only for a day. In Bordeaux, the tour picked up speed, and a mad dash to the finish resulted in a serious crash. But out of the chaos came 7-Eleven's Davis Finney, with the only stage victory by an American to date, matching the one he earned last year. After Bordeaux, the riders see their first real mountains, first to the Pyrenees to test their mettle, and across the scorching plains of Provence. And then on into the Alps, where the men who would be champions separate themselves from those who simply ride bicycles for a living. From there, it's north to Paris and the finish, where the survivors will have completed their 2,524-mile journey in 26 days. And of the 207 riders who started in Berlin, a little more than half will see the finish in Paris, before hundreds of thousands of cheering fans. And the final sprint down the Champs-Élysées serves as an escort for the man in the yellow jersey, the man who has beaten them all in their wild journey across France. And the question this year is, who will be the successor to last year's champion, Greg LeMond?
Second catch, Little Roads.
The reconstructed 7-Eleven team can now boast 3 serious contenders capable of mounting the winner's platform in Paris. It's no longer just team leader Andy Hampsten. It could also be Raul Alcala, the climber from Mexico. The talk around this year's tour is the growth of 7-Eleven. One expert told me earlier this week that 7-Eleven is now one of the top 7 cycling teams in the world, a quantum leap for the Americans.
Up on the top, and it rolls along, it goes down a little.
The 2 Colombian teams, each with some of the best climbers in the world, hope to keep their singing going when the tour reaches the peaks of the Pyrenees and the Alps. But Stephen Roche still remains the most watched racer in this year's tour. The Pyrenees are next.
This is CBS.
That does it for today's adventure. If you're new here, please subscribe. Take it one step further and ring that notification bell. And if you enjoyed today's video, please give it a big old like and a thumbs up. It lets me know you care. I'll see you in the next video. Ride on.